Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
I never meant to stumble upon the truth this way. It wasn't some deep-seated suspicion or a burning need to uncover hidden secrets. It started with a simple joke among my friends at school, an online DNA test for fun. We laughed, imagining wild possibilities of being related to royalty or famous celebrities. But when my results came in, laughter was the last thing on my mind. I sat on my bed, staring at the screen, my heart pounding against my ribs. The name Austin Sinclair was nowhere in the section labeled biological father. Instead, a name I had never seen before appeared. Brendan Calloway. My stomach twisted. I read the results over and over, willing the letters to change, but they didn't. My hands trembled as I clutched my phone. Mom had always told me stories about how she and Dad met, how they built our family together. But now, every word she ever spoke felt like a carefully woven lie. My head spun, a cold sensation creeping into my bones. I stormed down the stairs, barely able to contain the emotions brewing inside me. The house was quiet except for the low hum of the dishwasher in the kitchen. My mother Cheryl stood by the sink, rinsing a plate, completely unaware of the storm about to hit. "Mom." My voice was sharper than I intended, but I didn't care. She turned, startled by my tone. "Clarissa. What's wrong?" I hesitated, my fingers tightening around my phone. "I took a DNA test," I blurted, "and it says that Dad, Austin, he's not my biological father." Her face paled, the plate slipping from her fingers and clattering into the sink. The sound echoed through the kitchen, but neither of us flinched. Her reaction told me everything. There was no denial, no laugh, no quick dismissal. Only silence. "Say something," I demanded, my voice cracking. "Tell me it's wrong. Tell me this test is a scam." She swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the counter as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. "Clarissa, please, let's sit down and talk." "No." My breath was uneven. "You lied to me my whole life." "Listen to me," she pleaded, stepping toward me. "It's not what you think." Tears burned my eyes. "Then tell me what to think, Mom, because right now I feel like my entire life has been a lie." She inhaled shakily, rubbing her hands together. "Austin loves you, Clarissa. He has always been your father. That doesn't change the fact that he's not my real father." She winced at my words, and for a moment, guilt flickered through me. But the anger was too strong to let it settle. Her voice softened. "Please let me explain everything before you decide what's real and what isn't." I folded my arms, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. I didn't want to hear excuses. I wanted the truth, and whatever it was, I had a feeling it would change my life forever. Silence hung heavy in the living room. Clarissa sat stiffly on the couch, her arms crossed, her foot tapping against the hardwood floor in impatient rhythm. Across from her, Cheryl exhaled slowly, gathering the words that would change everything Clarissa thought she knew. "I need you to listen, honey," Cheryl said, her voice low but steady. "Not everything is how you think it is." Clarissa clenched her jaw. "I think it's pretty clear. You lied to me my entire life." Cheryl's chest ached at the bitterness in her daughter's tone, but she pushed forward. "Austin, he is your father in every way that matters. The DNA test doesn't change that." Clarissa let out a dry laugh, shaking her head. "Mom, stop. You knew this whole time and you never told me." Her voice rose. "You made me believe." She stopped, swallowing hard before her voice cracked. "Why did you do this?" Cheryl folded her hands together, her knuckles whitening. "Because Austin chose to be your father. He wanted you, Clarissa." Clarissa frowned, the sharp edges of her anger dulling just slightly. "What do you mean, chose?" Cheryl's eyes softened. "I was already pregnant when I met Austin. He knew from the beginning, and it never once made him hesitate. He fell in love with you before you were even born." The words hung in the air, shifting something deep inside Clarissa, but she wasn't ready to let go of her resentment just yet. "So what? You just let him pretend?" Cheryl shook her head. "There was no pretending. He was your father. He is your father. When you were born, he held you like you were his whole world. He was the one who stayed up when you cried at night, the one who kissed your scraped knees, who taught you to ride a bike. He was there for every school play, every doctor's appointment, every bedtime story." Clarissa blinked, her mind flashing back to years of memories. Austin lifting her onto his shoulders at the county fair, his voice cheering at her soccer games, his hand steady on her back the first time she rode a horse. "But he's not my real dad," she muttered, though her conviction wavered. Cheryl leaned forward. "Do you really believe that? That biology is the only thing that makes a father? That love, devotion, and sacrifice don't matter?" Clarissa looked away. "It still doesn't explain why you never told me." Cheryl sighed, her gaze heavy with emotion. "Because it didn't matter. Austin wanted you to grow up knowing only love, not doubt, not confusion. He legally adopted you when you were 3. To him, you were never someone else's child. You were his." Clarissa's throat tightened. "He adopted me." "Yes. He wanted to make sure you would always be his daughter, no matter what." Something deep inside her cracked, the walls she built in the last few hours shifting. Her fingers curled against her palms, her mind racing. Austin had chosen her. He had known the truth from the beginning, and still he had been there. He had stayed. Cheryl watched her carefully. "I know this is a lot, honey, but please don't let a DNA test erase the father who has loved you every single day of your life." Clarissa swallowed hard, her chest tight. Everything she thought she knew had changed. But was it really a betrayal, or had she just been blind to the truth all along? She didn't have an answer. Not yet. But for the first time since opening that DNA test, she wasn't entirely sure she wanted one. Clarissa's heart pounded as her mother's words settled in. "There's more," Cheryl said, her voice taut with emotion. "When you were 4, your biological father, Brendan, came back." Clarissa's breath hitched. "What?" Cheryl's hands trembled slightly as she continued. "He left before you were born. No calls, no letters, nothing. Then one day, out of nowhere, he showed up, saying he regretted everything." Clarissa's stomach twisted. "And you let him back in?" "No," Cheryl said firmly. "He wanted to claim you, but Austin and I refused. He wasn't there when you needed him. He wasn't there ever." Clarissa clenched her fists. "So what happened?" Cheryl's eyes darkened. "He threatened to take us to court for custody." Clarissa's breath came faster. "Could he have won?" "We didn't let it get that far," Cheryl assured her. "Austin fought like hell to keep you safe. We had proof, his abandonment, the adoption. We made it clear that being a father isn't about DNA, it's about showing up." Clarissa felt her chest tighten. "And Brendan, what did he do?" "He backed down," Cheryl said, but there was an edge to her voice. "But I never forgot the look in his eyes. He wanted something I never knew if he'd try again." A cold chill ran down Clarissa's spine. The past wasn't as buried as she thought. And for the first time, she wondered if Brendan was truly gone, or if one day he'd come back again. Clarissa sat in silence, staring at the DNA results still clutched in her trembling hands. The truth weighed on her, heavy, suffocating. For days she had resented Austin, thinking he was a liar. But now, the real betrayal wasn't his. It was her own doubt. She looked up at her mother. "Austin knew, from the beginning?" Cheryl nodded. "And he chose to love you anyway. Every scraped knee he patched, every bedtime story, every school recital. He was always there, because he is your father." Clarissa's chest tightened, and her voice cracked. "I hurt him, didn't I?" Cheryl's expression softened. "He understands, sweetheart. But you need to decide what matters more, DNA, or the man who's been your father every single day of your life." Clarissa swallowed hard. The answer was clear. She stood, heart pounding, and walked to Austin's study. He sat at his desk, eyes tired but kind. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I should have never doubted you." Austin's eyes glistened as he opened his arms. Without hesitation, she ran into them. "You'll always be my daughter," he murmured. Clarissa exhaled sharply. With one final glance at the DNA test, she tore it in half. Some things didn't need proof. She already knew the truth. That night, the house was filled with an unusual silence, one that wasn't heavy with tension but rather with unspoken understanding. Cheryl sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a warm mug of tea, staring at the steam curling into the air. Across from her, Austin sat in deep thought, his fingers tapping absently against the wooden surface. "She tore up the test," Cheryl murmured. Austin exhaled slowly, nodding. "She made her choice, not because we told her to, but because she wanted to." His voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable relief in his eyes. "She had to go through it herself," Cheryl said, "no matter how much we wanted to protect her from the truth." Austin sighed, rubbing his temples. I just kept thinking, what if she walked away? What if she decided I wasn't enough? Cheryl reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. You are always enough, Austin. You are her father. She just needed to see it with her own eyes. Austin nodded, but his gaze was distant. Someday she might want to meet Brendan. Cheryl's grip tightened, and if she does, we'll deal with it. Together. Upstairs, Clarissa lay in bed, her mind still racing from the night's events. The DNA test had shattered her world, but now, in its place, something stronger had formed. She finally saw the truth. Family wasn't about genetics. It was about love, about choice. Austin had chosen her, every single day of her life. A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she called. Austin stepped inside hesitantly. I just wanted to say goodnight. Clarissa sat up, swallowing the lump in her throat. Dad? He froze for a moment, as if afraid he had misheard her. Then his face softened. Yeah, sweetheart. Clarissa's eyes welled up, but she smiled. I love you. Austin crossed the room and pulled her into a hug, holding her like he had when she was little. And for the first time in weeks, Clarissa felt at peace. Downstairs, Cheryl wiped a tear from her cheek, listening to their voices. The storm had passed, and their family was stronger than ever.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.